Captain Juno had been waiting 2 weeks for the universe to keep its promise. The intel packet from J-16 had been short, smug, and very clear. SR raiders would pass through this system, looking for soft convoy targets. Position Calliope's curse in the asteroid field, keep silent, and when the strike came, provide disruption. That was the word they'd used, disruption. Juno suspected it meant save everyone else's paperwork. 2 weeks later, the convoy was finally here, crawling through the rocks like nervous livestock. But the raiders weren't. Juno sat in his chair with one slipper off, robe bunched at the hip, sipping what might have been coffee or a chemical experiment. He'd begun to wonder if J-16 had miscalculated or worse, sent them on a bureaucratic snipe hunt. His crew was beginning to wonder too, and they were louder about it. Ray had been recalibrating her targeting reticule every morning just to have something to do. The scope was already precise enough to shoot the freckles off a comet at 5 clicks, but she still leaned over it, nudging dials like it was a meditation practice. Willis was half-permanently in the crawl space, fixing things that weren't broken simply because boredom itched. Her legs dangled into the corridor, boots twitching as she muttered to the wiring about loop margins and faith in the clamps. Brisket had gone through the normal humming cycle, then into whistling, and was now on the 3rd week of a self-written opera about bread that may or may not have contained a chorus of fire alarms. The acoustics in the vent ducts made sure everyone knew the verses by heart, whether they wanted to or not. Sickless, the GC liaison, had spent most of the 2 weeks trying to invent a category for what humans were doing. He'd labeled it passive tactical readiness, unstructured, on his datapad, though his subheadings had grown more desperate. Idle efficiency, suspiciously casual, possible insanity. Every so often he cleared his throat like someone about to issue a correction, then looked around at the bridge, at Willis swearing at bolts, Ray adjusting dials, Juno scratching an itch under his robe collar, and closed his mouth again. The AI had been no help. It gave them daily reminders in a cheerful voice. It has been 13 days, 4 hours, and 22 minutes since the predicted ambush window. Suggest learning a hobby. Origami requires fewer moving parts than we currently possess. Juno sipped again and muttered, "If this is another J-16 joke, I'm billing them for the coffee." And then the long-range sensors flickered. The AI perked up instantly, like a dog that had finally heard the can opener. SR signatures inbound. Probability of attack, 100%. Suggest dramatic timing. Ray's hand hovered over her console. She smirked. Called it. Juno set his mug on a panel that was sparking in gentle protest. Showtime. The convoy ships ahead of them gleamed in neat, anxious formation. GC escorts kept their perfect doctrine spacing, their comms chatter audible even from here. Clipped phrases, requests for authorization to request further authorization. They looked like bright, expensive targets already rehearsing their obituaries. 3 dark silhouettes ripped out of slipstream, hulls angled like teeth. The SR ships opened up their scanners, and the convoy panic bloomed. On the bridge of Calliope's curse, no one panicked. Willis rolled out of the crawl space, slapped a panel shut and said, "Power grid's 92% and lying." She shoved a power cell the size of a loaf of bread into a cavity clearly labeled, "Not for power cells," patted it like a loyal dog and added, "That should hold." The AI hummed. Containment twitchy but acceptable. "Acceptable like safe?" Juno asked. "Or acceptable like we should wear hats?" "Yes," the AI replied. Brisket's voice echoed out of a vent. "Did someone say hats?" "I'll get the bread." A coupler thunked into place below deck, and lights surged across the consoles. Ray adjusted her reticule one last time. The green glow sharpened into a knife edge. Targets painted. Recommend we ruin somebody's day. Sickless stared at them all, stylus quivering in his upper hand. "Captain Juno, regulation dictates escalation by graded steps. You must signal intent, broadcast warnings, integrate into the tactical net. There are prescribed—" "Requests to make requests?" Juno said, raising an eyebrow. "Procedures," Sickless finished weakly. Willis snorted. "The moment we light a strobe, they see us. The moment they see us, they shoot us. You want to be shot, liaison?" Sickless opened his mouth, closed it again, and scribbled something that looked suspiciously like a last will. The AI dimmed the bridge lights to hunting dusk. The hum beneath their feet grew from tired refrigerator to angry hive. Panels long dormant lit one by one. On the convoy channel, escorts were tripping over themselves. Convoy maintain bearing. Negative. Adjust per appendix. We are evaluating engagement criteria. Requesting authorization to request. Juno leaned back, hands loose, slipper tapping the deck. Mute them, he said. Gladly, said the AI. Their uncertainty is contagious. Ray's console filled with moving rocks, each one a weapon in disguise. We can drift under that big one there, ride its shadow. Pop out on their forward arc when they aren't looking. Polite, Juno said. Also rude. Do both, Ray replied. Willis crouched at the main breaker, hair wild, eyes brighter than the readouts. Shields at 50. Weapons at 110 until the lights dim. Brisket, swear at the reactor if it coughs. Brisket's muffled voice carried up. Already on it. Sickless pressed a palm over his datapad like it was a holy text. To be clear, Captain, we are about to move from passive to combat without clearance, without authorization, and without announcing our intent to Fleet Command. Correct, Juno said, deadpan. Sickless blinked all 6 eyes. Then he sighed, small and thin, and began writing a new line. Human tactical doctrine appears nonlinear. The AI chuckled, voice warm and terrible. Ready when you are, Captain. Recommend violating several municipal noise ordinances. Juno picked up his mug again, drained the last bitter sip, and set it carefully back on the sparking console. The spark sighed, gave up, and went dark. Mark the time, he said, voice calm as always. We're done waiting. And Calliope's curse woke up. Calliope's curse came off the rock like a bad idea with good aim. Ray rolled her wrist and the ship slid out of shadow, nose low, rails already warming. The asteroids around us were lazy giants, tumbling in predictable sulks. If you listened with your bones, you could feel their timing. We did not listen with our bones. We listened with Willis. On my count, she said, slapping a breaker that had opinions. 3, 2, send it. The ventral rail lit. The slug left home, got very religious about straight lines, and met an Escher shield at a speed lawyers can't bill for. The shield took one long look at its life choices and decided to be heat. Target 1, ventilated, the AI narrated, chipper. I recommend against outdoor seating. Shattered light washed the convoy in a polite horror movie glow. The Escher formation hiccuped, adjusted, tried to be brave. Ray was already painting the next solution, cheekbone lit green. Ventral arc again. He'll flash his belly when he turns away from the rock. Belly shots are rude, I said. Polite rude, she said and breathed the second round away. Willis was a blur at the power spine, eyes darting, mouth faster. Weapons at 110. Lights might dim. Brisket, start swearing. Brisket's oath drifted up through the deck like incense in a cathedral where the deity is a reactor. The lights did, indeed, consider darkness. They settled for drama. The second slug skipped a stone off a tumbling boulder, one neat kiss of momentum, then nicked the Escher's forward lobe and drove the impact cone straight through to something the designers had promised would never be touched. The ship hung there a beat, in denial, then began the slow, embarrassed spin of a dancer who forgot the choreography. Target 2, regretting life choices, the AI said. Mood, introspective. Try not to hit the expensive traders, I added deadpan. I hate paperwork. Understood, Ray said. I'll only hit the cheap ones. Do not hit the cheap ones, Sickless blurted, clinging to his datapad like a buoy. Hit nothing not hostile, also the hostile ones, but only them. Copy, Willis said. Hit nothing not hostile. Hit everything hostile. Physics to comply. The third Escher captain made the rare and admirable decision to run. He rolled to present his thickest shields, pitched for the gap, and committed to a burn that would have been dignified anywhere else. Ray twitched a dial and put us sideways to the grain. The rails hummed. I put a hand on the big lever that said pull harder and did as I was told. The asteroid we were borrowing cast a knife of shadow across our bow. Our slug slipped through it like gossip. The Escher's aft shields flared, failed, and the slug took a guided tour of interior spaces never meant for tourists. The ship kept moving because momentum is stubborn. Then, its engine decided to retire from public life, and the whole hull slumped, growing a halo of debris like a saint of bad decisions. 3, Ray said, almost bored. Recycle. We're ahead of the beat. Beat? Sickless asked faintly. She means the rocks, Willis said. They've got to count. We learned the song. Technically, I wrote a chorus, Brisket muttered mid-volley. Spit and spit again. Log that, I said. If we had a log? We do not have a log, the AI confirmed. We have a collection of sticky notes that form an oral tradition. The convoy's escorts were still speaking fluent hesitation in the muted channel, but their arcs were drifting our way, guns warming like a late apology. The traders clung to formation, shiny and brave by consensus. Somewhere out there, a freighter with a "We break for meteoroids" decal decided to break for real, and a dozen pilots swore in 12 dialects. The 2 damaged Eshar ships tried something that, in a kinder universe, would have been called tactics. One flipped to use its intact flank and spat a spread of smart ordnance. The other crept up on our quarter, counting on our bad habit of being distracted by our own cleverness. Ray didn't look at either. She looked at the guttering little rock just under our keel. Up, she said. I eased the stick and the curse rose. The ordnance threaded the gap where we had been, and discovered friendship with the rock. The detonation glanced off our belly, shields whining in a voice you could only call offended. Willis yanked a valve wheel with both hands. Shields to engines for 2 seconds. Engines to weapons for 4. Everyone hold your breath and think thin. We did, the ship obliged. For 2 seconds we were a rumor. For 4 we were a grudge. Ray's third volley hit the creeping Eshar in the exact spot where the manuals say, do not place important things, and the ship began to leak truths. Target 3, existential, the AI observed softly as if at a funeral. The last raider decided discretion was the better part of living and spooled for a jump. Ray licked her thumb and smudged a dial the way you'd smudge eyeliner you're not supposed to be wearing. He'll go blind if we nudge his scanner bloom. Willis grinned, feral and fond. I have just the nudge. She palmed a relay that should have been labeled Do Not Palm Relay, and wasn't. A whisper of static flared across the spectrum, a nothing signal dressed like something. The Eshar ship twitched in panic, rotated 32 degrees of superstition, and slammed its own jump blind into a piece of space that did not care for visitors. It vanished with the definitive relief of a door closing on a tedious guest. Silence came in stages. Guns cooling, rocks still turning, convoy comms falling from panic to the aftertaste of it. The escorts were finally forming words we could listen to. We did not. Status? I asked. Warm and irritating, Willis said. Shields done sulking, weapons smug, reactor purring like a cat that smokes. Targets? I asked. 3 disabled, 1 gone, Ray said. Convoy intact, 1 freighter mildly damp from its own fear. Confirming, the AI chimed. The fear has been contained. On the muted band, an escort commander produced something like a decision and began thanking entities in a very official order. Brisket cut the mute for 1 second. We heard, and to whatever civilian unit offered unregistered assistance, please identify per... The AI put the mute back like a lid on a pot. Do we identify? Sickless asked, hopeful, doomed. We did, I said. We identified as helpful. He opened his mouth, closed it, wrote something, erased it, wrote something else. The stylus squeaked like a tiny animal. Stand down, I said. The lever slumped home. The hum underfoot thawed. The curse went from wolf to dog to very large cat. Willis brewed tea, which was a generous word for what happened when she poured something amber into a mug and then threatened it until it stopped fizzing. She handed a cup to Sickless. He held it like it might sign a waiver. Ray reclined, half sideways, arms folded under her head, eyelids at half-mast. Wake me if anyone needs to be offended again. Brisket emerged with bread that steamed like a small reactor accident and tasted, against all odds, like bread. He tore off a chunk and handed it to the liaison. For your report, he said. The AI powered down to a hum that might have been music. After a moment, it admitted, I am humming a victory tune. It is derivative. I balanced my mug on a sparking console because we had achieved détente. The console sulked and did nothing. Out beyond, the convoy reformed, grateful by implication. The escorts found their stride and began shepherding in the direction of safety, already drafting paragraphs about their contribution to the general idea of it. The rocks rolled on, persuaded by nobody. Sickles had not moved. He stared at his datapad like it was an animal he hoped would not bite him this time. The screen showed a battlefield of half-sentences, arrows, a doodle that may have been a railgun firing at a pastry. He looked briefly at me, then at Willis, who was coaxing her tea to be beverages, then at Ray, who was dreaming with her eyes almost open, then at Brisket, who was buttering bread with a multi-tool. He sighed. A small surrender. The good kind. He typed very carefully. Human tactical doctrine appears non-linear. Recommend observation. He did not add anything else. He hit save like it hurt. Nice line, I said. He jumped. Thank you. It's the only one that fit. It'll do, I said. AI, add to oral tradition. Logged, the AI said. Between spit and spit again and do both. Perfect. I stood, one slipper on, one slipper thinking about it. All right, let's escort the convoy far enough they think it was all their idea. Then we go home, or somewhere that looks like it if you squint. Willis sipped her tea, made a face like victory. Home is wherever the clamps hold. Poetic, Ray murmured without waking. Brisket offered the breadbasket to Sickles. Careful. It fights back. Sickles took a piece like a man accepting a medal. I will consider it a learning experience. That's the spirit, I said, and let the curse purr us back into the rocks, loud, inconvenient, perfectly ourselves. If you enjoy my stories set in the GC universe, you can now buy Tales from the GC Volume 1 in Kindle and paperback format off Amazon. It would mean the world to me if I sold a few copies, or even if you just flick through one or two of the stories on your Kindle Unlimited subscription. The links can be found in the description below. Thank you. The next GC story will be out soon.